Hi everyone, I'm Luke Hector and you're watching The Broken Meeple. This is a YouTube channel about board games where I give reviews, top 10s and my honest opinions, regardless of the consequences. We'll get on with the show in just a minute, but first a quick word from my sponsor. As a fellow gamer, you'll understand this is unacceptable. The solution? Head down to my new sponsor, Kiender.co.uk. Kiender stocks many of the hot new releases as well as some old hidden gems. Free delivery on orders over £30, further discounts on bulk purchases, and even 5% of your spending refunded back to you as points to be used for further discounts down the line. If you use the referral link in the description below and sign up for a new account, you'll get 5% discount on your first order over £60. So let's make gaps in your collection a thing of the past. Get down to Kiender and start saving today. Thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of the video.
Get on with it.
I'm sorry. I cannot believe how long it's been since I've done one of these. I said there was going to be a series, and it is going to be a series. I still want to do this, but it was early July when I put out the last episode of this. I cannot believe it's been 2 months and I haven't bothered to do another one of these. I must have been so busy with reviews and other content and the Lake District holiday and that. Oh my god, I am sorry guys.
Subtle.
This is basically where I go and choose a square of my calyx randomly and basically pull out all the games and give my thoughts on the games after I've played them enough times and they've been in my collection for ages and say whether they are keepers for life or potential culls should I need to make space for them. Not to say I'm going to get rid of them immediately, but more, am I going to cull them if the need arises? And of course, we'll try to focus more on this and not on everything that's going on down there because I am playing the hell out of the Lost Ruins of Arnak expansion for a future video, and so, well, that's kind of taken up all the table space at the moment. But this is a shelf in my study room over there. You see it in the background whenever I've done the previous top 10 lists, although once I start doing more top 10 lists, I'm actually going to start doing them in here now, so you won't see that backdrop anymore. But there's 4 games on this shelf, and I must admit, I don't go to this shelf very often. This one is one that kind of I gloss past, with the exception of 1 game in here, which I do like to pull out every now and again, but the other 3 have not been played in some considerable time, and that's a little worrying. But are they all potential culls? Well, let's see. So, let's start off with Sheriff of Nottingham. This is a Dice Tower Essential Arcane Wonders. This is the first edition of it, so I don't have the second edition version. I've had this for years, and it's basically a really cool social deduction bluffing game. You are basically merchants trying to sneak stuff in past the sheriff and make money for goods, but those goods could be legal, they could be illegal, and so you are essentially drawing cards and populating your little popper bag here with stuff in the goods, and you're passing them to the sheriff and you're making your claim saying it's 4 chickens, free bread, whatever. Or you could even tell the truth and say there's contraband in there if you're really that much of a gambler. But what you're essentially hoping is that the sheriff probably doesn't open your bag, at least if you're trying to sneak stuff in or not. If you are telling the truth and he looks in your bag, then you get compensation and money, which is great. So you're almost trying to goad the sheriff into opening your bag. But if you are trying to sneak stuff through, you're hoping the sheriff doesn't open yours and open somebody else, which might require you to bribe them.
Lies made baby Jesus cry.
This sort of idea I really enjoy. Now, this has got the Merry Men expansion in it, and I only really use 1 or 2 modules from the Merry Men expansion. I mean, it's a decent expansion overall, and there are a couple of things like the laws and stuff that I do like to use, but it's not an essential expansion. If you haven't got Merry Men, it really doesn't matter. But, you know, I love these popper bags, I love the artwork on these cards. Certainly use the house rule that I think I mentioned in my top 10, which is you only have 1 discard pile. None of this garbage about 2 discard piles, that's kind of nonsense. And if you have the app on your phone, introduce a timer. You cannot have the sheriff phase drag on for ages, otherwise you'll never finish this game. You need to keep it on a timer. Now, here's the problem. I haven't pulled this out in a while. It's been a long time since I pulled it out and I don't know exactly why. Maybe it's because I haven't played a lot of social deduction games lately. Perhaps I was getting a little bit burnt out on the genre and decided I wanted to play other things. That's probably a factor, even though I still enjoy social deduction games, but I certainly don't like to play subpar social deduction games now. I mean, certainly you won't catch me playing, some of the, old like Resistance ones and stuff, which are decent enough social deduction games, but I don't know, they just got a bit samey after a while. I don't even play One Night Werewolf anymore. I prefer Werewords. I still like Deception, Murder in Hong Kong. That's really good. I still like this one, but I cannot stand Blood in the Clock Tower, so it's kind of varying degrees of how much I like the genre now, but I still really enjoy this game and I do want to bring it out again but it has been a while, and it is a fragile game. You can get people who, you know, play it in a certain way or try to gamify it too much or just aren't expressive enough with the whole bribing aspect, and they can sour the game a bit. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe the fact that there's too many people I know who probably would just make this game break apart. But if you get the right group, maybe have a drink or so, play at a convention or something, this is just a barrel of laughs. So for me, it's still a keeper. But we're going to have to like keep an eye on it. Maybe I'm going to have to like get it to the table at some point soon and sort of reassess that. But I really enjoy this game. It's still one I enjoy, but I don't know. No, it's a keeper. It's a keeper for now, but we are going to do some research on this one.
Here come the test results. You are a horrible person.
So now we got Viral. Viral is a hidden gem, really. This one does not get talked about pretty much at all. And yeah, this is definitely the Arcane Wonders shelf now that I think about it. And certainly the Dice Tower Essentials shelf, funny enough, actually, because that's Dice Tower Essentials, so's this, and so's the next one. Well, that was unexpected. But basically, Viral is a game that I've touted the praises of for a while. You are basically viruses in a human system, human body system, and it's an area control mean-like game. So normally I don't like mean games, but light mean games, you know, that are cutesy, wahaha, whatever, you know, I don't mind them. I mean, if you give me something like Barrage, I'm going to hate its guts, but that's like a 3-hour dry, dreary Euro that's mean as all get out. This is just a harmless, like, you know, 1 hour cutesy idea. I mean, yeah, your virus is in a human body, for crying out loud. It's cartoony and colourful and stuff, so you're not meant to take it seriously. The expansion that I've put in here adds some cool ways to sort of augment your virus, which is cool. I forget what it's called, but, you know, I've shoved it in here and it's an easy fix. But it's just a really cool, like, a cool concept, because basically your viruses move around the system like, you know, different locations. It's a majority control thing, but you can play cards onto your virus to kind of augment it with different abilities, but your actions during the turn are essentially a hand management system of, you know, what actions do you want to do versus which location do you want to do them at. And you can't spam the same location all the time, so when you play cards in one particular cycle, you've got to try and use other things before they get back to your hand. So there is a little bit of planning involved. So there's some clever aspects to this, but the rules are super simple. It's a good, simple, light game, and one that I do like to bring out every now and again. It's just, you know, a clever system that never really got talked about. Nobody was talking about this. Even when Dice Tower Essentials said, we've got a new game coming out, and it's called Viral, and everyone was like, who? You know, nobody had heard of it, and yet nobody was really gunning for it. But honestly, if you find this second hand at a bring and buy, and it's relatively cheap, I mean, certainly don't pay more than, at today's prices, I mean, somebody selling this second hand should not be selling it for more than 20 quid, 25 tops, but I would say 20 quid. You find it for 20 quid at a bring and buy, give it a shot. It's just a really cool little game, area control, with some meanness, but light meanness, like you expect it in this game. Everybody's doing it to each other, and it's even got a couple of systems where if somebody gets too powerful, the doctors basically go, you know, stab you with a vaccine and go, right, you're getting too powerful, boom, let's bring you back down a notch. So it's cool, it's clever, it's a hidden gem. It's a keeper for me though. Viral does the job for a light area control game, and honestly, I don't have many area control games in the collection, to my mind. It's not one of my favourite mechanics, so this one just seems to do it a little bit better than most. Alright. Aquatica. Now, this one's probably the more popular one of everything that's on my shelf on this one here. And this has the expansion in it, which I feel, Cold Water or something, which I feel is a must-buy. Because the goals in the first, like, base game are a bit meh, whatever, they're not that interesting. In the expansion, you can replace them with these guilds that you can, the tribes or whatever that you can get, which give you an ability and also are the end game timer, but it mainly just adds a few more cards. Now, you know, Aquatica is, you know, one that had a bit of a diffy rulebook, I must admit. I had to print, like, reference guides in order to get the rulebook, like, firmly in my head. It's not written very clearly, and it's essentially a hand management game. You get these little, like, manta rays that can give you bonuses and that, and you're essentially almost a bit like, I dare say the word, Concordia, using a hand management system where you play the cards and then at some point you've got to get them all back. But you can acquire more cards as the game goes on. It's fairly simple rules in terms of what you do with the cards, but here's where the problem lies. the meat of the game, which is probably the more fun aspect, is also its Achilles heel, because you are essentially trying to complete as many of these locations as possible. And I mean, the artwork in this is gorgeous. It looks really nice. It's a well, decent looking game. But explaining how these locations work is very, very fiddly. And it's a big put off from this game. I have to refresh myself with the rules, because if I try to reference anything in the main rulebook, I'm not going to succeed. But trying to explain to people, right, okay, so when you've got this in your cool slide out board, then this one lets you get an item, this one requires you to pay money, this one gets you money when you do it, but then by sliding this one up, this means you get money, but only for the next card that you're getting, and this one gives you an instant push up, but it doesn't count as you're not...
What the hell are you talking about?
There's a lot of confusion with these, and this becomes the biggest FAQ madness whenever I play this game, because the iconography in this game is not intuitive, and it's quite a fiddly system. And it's kind of why I haven't brought this out in a while. And I'm going to say it, I think this is a potential cull, because I do enjoy the game, but having to use this in order to relearn it all the time, having to go through a bit of faff to explain how the locations work, and requiring the expansion to fix a problem with the base game on top, does drop this a bit, and I've been unwilling to bring it off the shelf in favour of other stuff. Now, if other people want to play it and sort of teach it and just refresh my memory, then I'll gladly jump in a game of this, because I still think it's enjoyable. But I forget what I gave it before, probably like an 8 out of 10. It's probably a 7 at this point. I still think it's good and I can recommend it, but I do have some caveats with it, and I just have not taken it off the shelf in a while in favour of other hand management style games. Despite it looking cool, people sort of compare this to Abyss. They're nothing alike. Just because they're all water themed board games, they are nothing alike, and Abyss is miles better anyway. But yeah, a subpar solo mode as well. The solo mode's not particularly interesting in this either, so it's basically, and 60 minutes on the box. Yeah, you wish you tried playing this in 60 minutes with 4 players. That is not happening. So it's variable time, it's not a good solo, it's got some fiddly rules. They're all little things that put me off playing it. So I still like it, it's still here for now, but I'm going to put this one on the cull section. Sorry, Aquatica.
We're sorry.
Tribes of the Wind, the most recent game on the shelf. You got to check out my review to see how much I have talked about this game in terms of being a hidden gem from last year's Essen. This one had a lot of people interested in what it was like, mainly because it looked gorgeous and had Vincent Dutrait's artwork all over it. Now, I couldn't have cared less that it had Vincent Dutrait's artwork on it. Yes, he's a fantastic artist, but he's not the reason I buy a game. Okay, I don't buy a game just because an artist had something to do with it. But this one intrigued me because of its card system. It kind of borrows a little bit from Hanabi, but not entirely true. So where's the cards I want to get? Yes, so I want to get these cards here to kind of showcase. The idea is simple premise, and kind of think, if you're a Studio Ghibli fan, think Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. This one gave me a lot of vibes for that from its artwork. But the idea is that you have a board and you're trying to build different locations on it, and they're generic tiles. It's basically tile placement, but you can also put your little villages and temples on it in order to gain special bonuses. That's the crux of what you're doing in the game, and that may not sound interesting by itself, but it's what you do to get there that's fun. Essentially what happens is you have all these different element cards. So you've got water, fire, wind, and forest. And I'm sure heart would have been there, but I guess they didn't want 5 factions. But the idea is that all of these cards have got different abilities on them. And the power of the ability is dictated by how many of these types of cards from the element you have, and potentially your 2 neighbors. This is where the Hanabi bit kind of comes in though, because you effectively have a stand. And what you do is you place your cards face away from you so that you can see the abilities obviously, but everybody else can see your elements. And so I might play a card here, for example, that says, have I got 2 water? Nope, well I can't play it then, right? Can't play that card. But then I've got one here that says, for example, do I have the least forest amongst all me and my 2 neighbors? Well, I've only got 1 forest here. He's got 2, he's got 3. I have the least, so I get to do the main ability on this one to play a tile for much cheaper and remove a couple of the pollution. But that's what these cards are doing. You're basically looking at the elements you have and your 2 neighbors. So yeah, 4 player and 5 player is not particularly useful in this game. You're better off capping this at 3 players. But it's this cool idea that it's a very tactical game. This is not strategy at all. You have to basically look at the cards you've got, think about what you're trying to do on your board, but you're constantly reacting to what your neighbours are doing. Because your neighbours might suddenly reset half their hand with a tempo, and now it's like, great, now they've changed their elements all over the place. Where does that put me? But then you notice somebody's building up quite a bit of water, and it's like, well, I got a water here that allows me to do a lot for neighbours having water. I was going to do that, but you know what? Now's a good time to play this card, you know. And so you get a lot of these opportunities, and I just find that so addictive. It's easy to teach. Yes, there's a lot of iconography, but it's pretty intuitive as to how most of it works, and it just is a really cool, fun concept. It feels like an innovative twist on the whole cards facing away mechanic, and a good way to have the fact that you have two neighbours be meaningful. Yes, the fourth player doesn't mean much, and playing this with 5 is moronic. I don't even know why they put it on the box. It was a dumb idea.
Stupid! You're so stupid!
3 player works great. Solo mode doesn't exist. There is a fan-made one on BGG, but I've tried it. It's not that great. Wasn't a big fan. So really, this is a 2 to 3 player game ideally, and that does limit it for me in some respects. But I'd still play this with 4. It's just you've got to accept that that 4th player is kind of redundant. But 2 player works brilliantly in this, because what happens is you and your opponent face each other, but the display where you get these cards from are typically like 5 cards and, you know, on the thing like that. The idea is that this represents the dummy hand of another neighbor. So you're looking at your opponent for a neighbor as well as this ever-changing display, and that's it. That's how the 2-player system works, and it's really cool. You can play a good, quick game of this as a 2-player game. I highly recommend it as such. So, Triumphs of the Wind was just a hidden gem. I didn't know I would like it as much as I did. I think I gave it a 10 out of 10 when I reviewed it. Now, 10 out of 10 maybe. I mean, I still really enjoy this game, but maybe it's probably closer to a 9 at this point. I still would happily, wholeheartedly give this a seal of distinction. I think it's that good of a game and one that needs to be played, but maybe 10 was going a little bit too high. Perhaps I was just riding a high at that point. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. Of course it's a keeper. I've played this many times. I've loved showing it to people, and as people sort of go, oh, this is quite cool. Yeah, I'm enjoying this. I'm liking this card played. It's like, yep, got them in there. You know, is it perfect? No, no game ever is. But I still think you need to give this one a look if you haven't already and you thought that card mechanic sounded good. If you didn't like that sound of that card mechanic, then, well, you're not going to like the rest of this game. So, you know, go by that means. But by all means, check out the review I did and watch me ride the buzz train for this one. So there we go, 3 Arcane Wonder games / Dice Tower Essentials and 1 Boîte de Jeu European game, 3 keepers, although one of them is a caveat, and 1 cull. And yes, don't worry, I'm sorry I haven't been doing these episodes more regularly, but despite the fact that Midgard is literally this weekend, and the fact that Essen is at the end of this month, I will cater to get more of these episodes out. So, sorry guys, sorry, but I know you love them, and I do love doing them as well, because, you know, it's one thing to review games brand new, to say, oh, this is the new hotness, this is what I think of it, pros and cons, but it's sometimes good to just revisit stuff on your shelf and just have a think, you know, you've had it for so long. Do you regret buying it? Do you want to keep it? What is it that's made it stay the test of time? I find that that sort of stuff is A, both interesting when I hear it on other videos, but B, also good for the consumer, because the consumer wants to know if they're paying this much money for a game, is it going to stand the test of time? And so, you know, it's all useful information. So that's it for me on this video. If you like what you see, then please thumb it up there on YouTube and let me know your comments on all 4 of those games. Do you like them? Do you love them? Do you hate them? You know, let me know your thoughts and any tips or whatever you've got for people who have bought these games, like, you know, what expansions to get or how to play it or some BGG stuff, then by all means, let us know what you have to say. So until next time, remember, regardless of whether you can make a decision on whether to keep or cull something, it's still only a game, so hurry up and make up your mind. Take care, and bye for now.